I want that emotional roller coaster that we might be going on when we transition into new roles or major changes, right? But first, I'm going to look online because the last time, even though the sound was on, it didn't actually pick up any sound. So I'm just going to real quick. It looks like we have sound. Technology. That's all I'm going to say. So let's get into this because some of you may know I recently have transitioned about a year ago. I moved across the country, and then that's been a transition, but I also transitioned into a new teaching role, obviously at a new school, and a grade that I haven't taught since my first year of teaching. So there was a lot of transitioning happening for me. And so I want to hop on here and just share some of that learning because I know that there's a lot of transitioning happening for other people, either like on the smaller scale or on the larger scale. And I see that. I don't know if it's like a universal shift that's happening or something. And it's very exciting, but it can also like touch on all of our different feelings and emotions throughout the day. And then we get to a point where we're like, I don't even know what's happening to me right now. I don't even know how I'm feeling, but I just don't know. Or at least that's what it was for me. Like that roller coaster of like, I'm really excited about this. Yes, it's going to be great to like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so miserable. And back to, you know, oh, this is exciting. We're getting a new community, things like that, to, oh, I'm homesick. Just all like the whole spectrum of emotions, right? So, how can we tackle those so that we're not feeling like we're an emotional roller coaster throughout the day? Right? How can we like stabilize ourselves and regulate ourselves a little bit more? And so, I want to talk to you about like time, space, and grace. Okay. So, what does that look like when we're on an emotional roller coaster and we're giving ourselves time, right? I think for me, it was about like shifting some of my routines and responsibilities and like taking some things off my plate because I knew that transitioning into a new role that was going to need all my attention. So not only giving yourself time to like sort things, but giving yourself time to sort your emotions. Right? Giving yourself the time to do that. So even if it's like you give your kids 20 minutes of screen time and you're like, I'm just going to go in the bedroom and like process this, right? So giving yourself time to do that. And in that time, really getting curious and acknowledging what is it that you're actually feeling, right? Like for me, I find like when I start getting irritable with my kids or my husband, and then I take that time, I'm like, okay, I'm noticing that I'm feeling very like, why? Because that's for me, that's not normally my personality. And so being able to say, like, why, where am I feeling that? And for me, usually what it ends up coming down to is like I had an expectation and the reality of that expectation didn't match. Right. And so for me, I was like, oh, I was expecting these things to happen. And this is actually what happened. And giving myself the time to do that and actually the space too, right? That's where that space comes in of like being able to remove yourself and having a chance to like listen to yourself. And so the expectation, the reality, I was like, oh, okay, I was expecting this to happen. This is what really happened. Now I need to readjust. And even just that acknowledgement of like, this is what I expected to happen and this is what's really happening allows me to look at my emotions around that and be like, oh, okay, this is why I'm feeling this. And now I can make a plan moving forward, whether it is communicating what I actually need, right? Like, oh, my kids woke up right after me. I didn't get my like morning quiet time. That's what I was expecting. So now I know that I need to talk to my husband like, "Hey, I need like an hour to myself to like," right? Or or looking at the reality and saying, "Okay, I just need to adjust my expectations to meet this new reality." And usually we can move on. Right? So giving yourself the time to process your emotions and get curious about your emotions and acknowledge what you're actually feeling, right? Because I was feeling irritable, but that wasn't the root cause, right? The root cause was maybe my expectations and my realities weren't matching. And it came out through the emotion of like irritability, and giving yourself the space to step away so that, and like quiet time, so that your mind's not just going, 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 and we're basically like stirring the pot within ourselves, right? Letting it simmer and bubble over. And of course, the last one is like grace. And I'm checking my notes here to see if I'm forgetting anything. And when I say the grace, like the grace to be like, it's okay to feel the way I'm feeling. It's okay to be like super excited and hopeful and um, blissful and pumped up and all of these things one minute, and then the next minute, like, oh my gosh, you know, what is happening in the anxiety and overwhelm. Those are all normal process because our bodies are trying to figure out when we transition into new roles and routines and all of those things, our bodies have to readjust to those routines as well. And so our emotions are also going to be readjusting as we figure out what's working, what's not working, and how we move forward. So just keep that in mind, right? Acknowledge your emotions, give yourself time and space to get curious. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling? And then even regulating that. For me, regulating that is a quiet time where I can do my aroma boost. But for you, it might be tapping, meditation, yoga, exercise, right? Giving yourself time and space to acknowledge and get curious and then regulate those emotions. And then the grace to be like, it's okay. I can move on with my day. Emotions are like waves, right? You can just write them out. And it's totally okay to feel one way 5 minutes and 10 minutes later to feel another way. That's actually kind of the nice thing about emotions is they don't stick around, right? They're constantly changing. All right. You guys have the best day. We'll talk next time.